Fighting dengue with Wolbachia, Singapore steps up efforts to suppress the Aedes aegypti mosquito. It's another world title for Singapore's Zip Pin Siu, who set a new championship record. And we've got help for your hands if frequent washing causes eczema to flare up. Happy midweek, you're watching The Big Story with me, Haryanto Diman. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you will not miss a single episode. Amid concerns that Singapore's dengue infections will continue rising, male Aedes aegypti mosquitoes with the Wolbachia bacteria will be released at 8 more sites from next month. They are Bedok North, Bedok Reservoir, Choa Chu Kang UT, Geylang, Hougang, Punggol, Sengkang and Woodlands. And this expansion of Project Wolbachia will cover 300,000 homes overall and around a third of all HDB blocks. To support this, the National Environment Agency will increase the number of male Wolbachia-Aedes mosquitoes produced per week from the current 2 million to 5 million by the end of this year. Delivering the keynote address at the Asia Dengue Summit, Sustainability and Environment Minister Grace Fu says a person living in Singapore today is 10 times less likely to get infected with dengue for the first time, compared with someone in the 1960s. But this also means there is falling population immunity to dengue here. Health correspondent Timothy Goh joins me now to share more. Tim, how effective has Project Wolbachia been in areas where it was implemented previously?
Hi, thanks for having me, Haryanto. So Project Wolbachia has been pretty effective in the areas where it's been trialed so far. If you look at, say, Tampines or Yishun, which were two of the main test sites, they've had up to, I think it was 88% lower incidence of dengue as compared to the non-release control sites. And there's also been up to 98% suppression of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes in some of the areas.
And Minister Grace Fu said while Wolbachia technology is promising, it's not an instant one-stop solution to the dengue problem. What are the other efforts needed in this fight against dengue?
Yes, that's correct. So I think the very common phrase we keep hearing is it's not a silver bullet. And that's because the most important pillar of Singapore's fight against dengue is actually source reduction. And what that means is it's eliminating potential breeding sites or actual breeding sites for mosquitoes in your home. So that's like getting rid of stagnant water, ensuring that there's nowhere for mosquitoes to lay their eggs within your household. That is a key part of Singapore's fight against dengue.
And Tim, you recently went to NEA's mosquito factory. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's quite a fascinating facility. It was opened in 2019. It's located in an industrial park in Ang Mo Kio. And that's where they breed all the Wolbachia mosquitoes that they need for Project Wolbachia. So the way Project Wolbachia works is that male Wolbachia-Aedes aegypti mosquitoes are released into the wild, and there they will mate with female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes that do not have the Wolbachia bacteria. And this results in the females laying eggs which do not hatch. So the idea of this is that it will gradually reduce the Aedes aegypti mosquito population in Singapore. And as we all know, Aedes aegypti is the most key vector of transmitting dengue in Singapore. So the idea is that once you reduce the population, then the rate of dengue incidence will drop in Singapore as well. So the facility itself has several components to it. And it's got various rooms, some of which are used to breed and rear the mosquitoes. And these rooms are all temperature controlled to be at the optimum temperature to breed mosquitoes. And at the facility also, they've got a machine that sorts the mosquitoes via their sex. So only male mosquitoes are released into the wild as part of our strategy. And just to be extra safe, they've got an X-ray machine that doses any stray females that may be accidentally released alongside the males, although this is not common, so that when they come out, they cannot breed. And this is key to Singapore's strategy because we go for suppression of the mosquito population rather than trying to replace it, which some other countries do.
Thanks, Timothy Goh there, health correspondent for the Straits Times. Tickets to one of Singapore's biggest nightclubs, Marquee, will go on sale at noon tomorrow, ahead of its reopening on July 1st. It's $30 for online ticket bookings and $40 at the door. Shut since March 2020, Marquee's reopening comes as capacity limits for nightlife establishments with dancing were lifted this week, and patrons will no longer need to have a negative ART result to enter such venues. The legal fraternity paying tribute to public prosecutor G. Kannan, who died at the age of 52. He's believed to have passed away while on holiday with his family in Phuket. DPP Kannan acted on notable cases, including the ongoing one against oil tycoon OK Lim of Hin Leong Group. Singapore's golden girl Lip Pin Siu has done it again, retaining her 100 meters backstroke S2 world title at the World Para Swimming Championships on Tuesday. The five-time Paralympic champion touching the wall in a championship record time. Congrats, Pin Siu. K-pop supergroup BTS will be taking an indefinite break to focus on the members' solo careers, dropping the bombshell during their annual streamed dinner to mark their anniversary as a group. By the end of the hour-long stream, several of them teared up as they voiced gratitude for the BTS army.
그리고 사실 BTS 혹은 방탄소년단을 생각했을 때 사람들은 늘 아미를 얘기하거든요. 아니, 그럼. 여러분이 저희의 사실은 본질이에요. 그래서 늘 여러분을 떼놓을 수가 없는 거고, 제가 이렇게 지금 활동이 사실 괴롭다라고 얘기하면서도 제가 죄책감을 느끼고 있는 게 여러분이 너무 그거를 미워하실까 봐. 사실은 내가 쉬고 싶다고 하면 내가 쉬고 싶다고 하면 내가 죄 짓는 것 같아가지고.
And following the news, shares of Hybe, the agency that manages BTS, plunged by a record, sinking up to 28% today in Seoul, wiping out as much as $1.7 billion in market value. Just 2 days after officially announcing the second season of its hugely popular series, Squid Game, Netflix is creating a real-life version of the show with 456 contestants battling it out for a whopping $4.56 million in prize money. Now, casting is currently only open to English speakers over 21 years old who can commit to filming for up to 4 weeks in early 2023. And no, the games won't be gruesome and will not have deadly consequences. The application reads, win or lose, all players will leave unscathed. But if you win big. If frequent hand washing has left your hands feeling dry and itchy, you're not alone. Since the start of the pandemic, we've been encouraged to practice good hand hygiene. And while soaps and sanitizers do a great job of keeping germs at bay, they also strip the natural oils on our skin. During the pandemic, some doctors here have seen an increase in cases of eczema, a skin condition that causes itchy, dry, flaky, inflamed and irritated skin. Joining us is Dr. Connie Liu, a dermatologist at DS Skin Clinic. Doctor, besides more frequent hand washing, what else could have led to an increase in eczema cases since the start of the pandemic?
The largest increase of eczema has been hand dermatitis, which is caused by over-diligent hand washing, use of harsh soaps and sanitizers. The skin actually produces its natural oils and protection, and this is being stripped away by the repeated use of soap and water, leaving it vulnerable to irritants and allergens. The increase in hand dermatitis was most evident in the first 6 months of the pandemic, and the number of cases has continued to remain high throughout the last 2 years. Interestingly, in the last 6 months or so, as COVID cases are getting milder and more common, we are seeing different types of eczema appearing. There are patients with no previous history of eczema suddenly having new onset of rashes, or patients with mild eczema in the past having a sudden flare of their pre-existing quiet eczema. And it commonly starts about 2 to 4 weeks post the infection. But it can also be very insidious, worsening gradually over the last few weeks. There are no large reports in literature to explain why we are seeing this phenomenon so far. So for now, I tell my patients, perhaps the infection have irritated their immunity, and this is causing the flare of their eczema. And to a smaller extent, we are seeing a similar trend in some patients post a COVID vaccine. We await more studies to give us a more insight as to the cause of this etiology.
And doctor, from what I understand, eczema can be a small irritation for some people, but for others, a flare-up can have quite a big impact on their lives.
Well, eczema by definition is itchy. So if you've had eczema before, you will know that for some patients, this itch can be more unbearable than pain. And depending on the type, the severity, and the extent of the eczema, different people are affected to different degrees. A good analogy to understand eczema would be to see it like fire. And a trigger is like someone who started the fire, releasing a cascade of inflammatory markers which spread throughout the skin, resulting in a burning itch that accompanies eczema. A small fire can be ignored initially, and activities in life can carry on as per normal at first. But as the fire spreads, like through a dry wood in the forest, this burning pain can then start to have a huge impact on their lives, affecting their work, their sleep, and even normal daily function. Patients often also wonder why when the trigger is removed, the eczema remains unresolved. It is like someone who set the fire and has left, the fire may continue to burn unless there are steps put in place to put out this fire, and provided the trigger is then removed already. So as with fire, a small fire is easier to put out than a big fire. Therefore, it is important to treat eczema early as well.
So, doctor, that said, what are your tips to put out the fire, like you said, to deal with eczema, especially for dry and flaky hands?
Definitely. So there are 4 main steps to remember. Firstly, a gentle soap. Soap and water alone is enough to remove germs and the COVID virus, if the hand washing steps are done properly. There are many different brands of skincare that are tailored for eczema skin. They mainly aim to preserve the natural protection of the skin as much as possible. If we wash our hands 2 to 3 times a day, this difference may not be very obvious. But nowadays, we're washing our hands more than 10 times a day. If you don't use a gentle soap, the hand will soon end up become very dry and irritable. Secondly, moisturize. A good moisturizer contains ingredients like ceramides. They are like the cement that holds the skin cells together. And using moisturizers that contain ceramide can replenish the skin and restore the injured skin barrier that has been injured by the repeated washing. If possible, moisturize the skin after every hand wash, or at least every 2 to 3 hours to give the skin the round-the-clock protection. Thirdly, protective gloves. It is a very simple step, but I'm always surprised by patients who don't use gloves when they do house work like washing dishes or hand washing their clothes. For some patients, this one simple step can change their hand dermatitis and improve it by very much. Lastly, sanitizers. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, we're forced to use our sanitizers a lot in the last 2 years, and it can quickly injure the skin barrier and trigger hand eczema. So I think it is a delicate balance to try to kill the COVID virus as often as possible, but yet protect our skin so it doesn't get pushed over the edge and become dry and inflamed. So these 4 steps: firstly, a gentle soap, moisturize regularly, use of protective gloves, and a wise use of the sanitizers go a long way to prevent our skin from becoming dry and flaky.
Doctor, thank you for the advice. Dr. Connie Liu there, a dermatologist at DS Skin Clinic. Also in the paper and online today, doctors tell ST that the condition which pop singer Justin Bieber has been diagnosed with is rare in Singapore. Known as Ramsay Hunt syndrome, it's a form of shingles that affects the facial nerve near the ear and is caused by the same virus behind chickenpox. Those are our top stories today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Haryanto Diman. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.